In 2017, end of 2016, the bank launched an intra-African trade strategy. The strategy is part of the enterprise strategy that is hinged on 4 pillars, and I'm sure you will have heard them throughout the course of the period. The arrowhead of our strategy is intra-African trade. Linked to that, closely linked to that, is industrialization and export development. And then we also have to maintain and strengthen our leadership in trade finance. And finally, the 4th pillar, which is internal to us, is sound financial performance. Well, I'll quickly rush through because I'm mindful of time. I also know that we are way behind our schedule. One of the products we will use to support investors, there's been so much talk about infrastructure, trade-enabling infrastructure, industrialization, but there's so much underinvestment in those areas. Why? I think it's because, the perception of risk is very high. So I'll tell you what Afreximbank can do to help in the promotion of intra-African trade, or trade within the ECOWAS region. We will support you with investment guarantees. The investment guarantees are those investment guarantees that will help you mitigate risks or cover risk against expropriation or nationalization of your firm in another African country, and to protect your rights from government action, from anything that can disrupt your business and normal operations. We will also support you with investment finance, and that's to support Nigerians who are promoting projects in other African countries, even within the West African region, with finance and project finance. There are other guarantees we can also provide you, which are, for instance, we will also provide you guarantees to guarantee government commitments to project promoters in that other African country, be it in West Africa or wherever else the Nigerian business wants to invest in. We have a program we called the Global Facilities for Intra-African Trade Champions. Afreximbank wants to support and nurture intra-African trade champions. For us, it's one of the ways we can leap, get into or achieve ambitious targets of growing intra-African trade from levels of about 170 billion today to 250 billion that we target for ourselves in the next 3 years, which means moving it from the current 15%, depending on what statistics you're looking at, 15 to 17%, to 24% by 2021. Those global facilities, then we offer those intra-African trade champions what we call global facilities. These are omnibus lines to support the company, the headquarter or the holding company, and also the subsidiaries in other parts of Africa. And what does that? It gives an ease of a flexibility in our approvals. The other thing we do also is to provide other incentives or other services. For instance, twinning services. When we visit, or the Dr. Rama, our president, visits heads of state, he tries to go with a pool of businessmen. What he's trying to do is to see if we can facilitate the award of contracts to intra-African and global champions or intra-African trade champions. And then what we do is to back those champions with financing. In that way, they're able to compete with other businessmen from other parts of the world, China, what have you. I'll also talk about some other, the ECOWAS Commission, some other initiatives we have. We're trying to support a regional interstate transit guarantee, whereby we, to support cargo going from one African country, crossing through several African countries to the destination, without actually being tampered. You have a system now that has national guarantors, but doesn't have a regional guarantor. That's one of the things we'd like to talk to you about. I'm glad I'm on the panel with you. We'll support export credit guarantee. We'll provide export credit guarantees as well to help leverage financing to support exports of capital goods into the country. We'll provide the plain vanilla country risk guarantees. In the interest of time, I'll just stop there, but I won't stop without talking about some other initiatives we are already working on, and some of you already know, to support intra-African trade. One being the payment and settlement system that we're promoting. Dr. Nana, you know that very well because you're working with ECOWAS as a pilot. We're supporting development of industrial parks and export processing zones to support agro processing and light manufacturers. You know, we're also supporting, yesterday we unveiled the plaque for the Testing, Inspection and Certification Center that we're putting up we're supporting its development in Ogun State. We're also supporting export trading companies who act as aggregators, you know, in the cost of intra-African trade. Many of our small businesses, SMEs, farmers, processors cannot do international trade, export, or cross-border. They just don't have the capacity. Export trading companies will do that. Finally, we are hosting, as you may have seen around here, the very first ever intra-African trade fair in Cairo. We've conceived it to hold it every 2 years and to deal with a very fundamental problem, which is trade information, the absence of trade, investment, and market information. We want to bring buyers and sellers together, but not just buyers and sellers that are trading. We also want to bring investors, countries, Nigeria, to come and showcase its investment opportunities so that other African countries can see what Nigeria. Often and on, our countries are importing things that their neighbors are selling. We want to put an end to that so that the traffic and trade can grow.
To actually examine the subject of the investment prospects within ECOWAS with reference to African Continental Free Trade Area. And my question is, shall we be able to actually go into it? And with respect to the problem you say we need to look at, yes, ECOWAS has problems. But the first and foremost is this. We are going to AFCFTA, that is a free trade area, but can they not, we need to produce before we can trade. And then yesterday, I have a very exciting explanation from South Africa, which says that the first step before you go into free trade is to first and foremost industrialize. And then you bring up your production function so that you have the tradables. Because of what you use is you having a lot of treaties, particularly with free trade, but you have nothing to say to each other. And that is where the subject of investment comes in. And good enough, ECOWAS Commission in its program has tried to look into the main objective of the treaty. And when you look at treaty number 3 of that revised treaty, it looks at the institution of having a common industrial space. And ECOWAS is going to this. I'm very sure that we are reaching a very final stage to have a very wonderful common investment position. Now, but what is still constraining us with respect to moving ahead? Well, quite a lot of these problems have been identified since the beginning of this program. They said that possibly we have a region that is having a lot of problems. People don't really have the trust of bringing their money here. But I'm equally happy that in the morning we have the ATI CEO, that's Otino, that's ATI is African Trade Insurance, who presented his own position about ATI. ECOWAS is going to an arrangement with African Trade Insurance, and from what he told me, a lot of our member countries are signed to that. What is ATI doing? They are guaranteeing investment in case there's a problem. There's an economic issue, which was not envisaged at the time that the investment is going ahead. They guarantee investment risk. So 2014, ECOWAS concluded a sort of an investment guarantee mechanism. And that is why our member states are signing on into that of the ATI, African Trade Insurance. Starting on our own may not be necessary. Why? Because, why duplicating when we already have an institution that is doing it? And that is why ECOWAS take a position to look at that. So the problem of the investment crisis, why people are not happy with the environment, that's why it's being settled. What are other issues? The other issues relate to quite a lot of protocols which we have actually signed, each member state signed, but people are not actually complying. You see, I'm aware, I'm very close, opportunity to work upon of the investment policy framework of ECOWAS. And after the investment policy framework, we have an ECOWAS investment rules. December 2008, the head of state signed those rules, which actually give a sort of a common investment space, not a code yet, but provide a framework that these are the conditions which member states must follow. But unfortunately, you still discover that despite 10 years old of this supplementary act on investment rules, our member states are still having some problems with allowing businesses to be established in their region. Why? This shouldn't be. Okay? So, which means in the political end, there's certain things to be tidied up. Another very critical issue, which I'm happy to have you as deputy governor here, and I talked to you about it anyway, when you were in Awani, and even now I talk to you, is the issue of the payment system is difficult. I mean, open letter of credit, you have to go through dollar and pounds and euro. So I want to trade in Nigeria with the Republic of Benin, I have to open letter of credit in those currencies. And this makes tradables across member states to be difficult in terms of cost, in terms of time. With globalization, the basic Jacob-Vienna principle of economic integration have changed. Everybody moved towards a common currency. And Britain said, no, I want to be seeing the head of my queen on my own currency. Right? So there is no need to have a single currency. I mean, from my own economic way of thinking. Once we interconnect, our currency can shake hands. Therefore, to me, we don't need to have a single currency before we can increase our volume of trade.